We'd like to welcome our two new council members, Colleen Granger and Troy Belliston. We're excited to have them working with us within the city on the council. I've asked Councilman Jeff Turk if he will lead us in an invocation, and Weston Muir from 1758 to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our dear, kind, gracious Father in heaven, as we humbly bow our heads and come before Thee at the opening of this city council meeting, Father, we do so with gratitude and thanks in our hearts for those many blessings that Thou hast bestowed upon us. We're grateful and thankful for this great land that we have the opportunity to live in, for those freedoms and those blessings that are pronounced upon us. We give gratitude and thanks. We're grateful for those great men and women who serve to provide and protect those freedoms and those opportunities for us, Father, and we seek the blessings on their behalf and the behalf of their families, that they might be watched over and protected, that they would be blessed with those means by which they stand in need of, and that they'll be blessed with those special blessings that Thou knows they stand in need of and they deserve for the service that they give to us. Father, we're grateful for this great city that we have the opportunity to be a part of, and for the many blessings that Thou bestows upon us as a community, upon the citizens who live here. And we pray for the citizens of our community that they might also be blessed with those blessings that they stand in need of and that they seek and desire in their lives. That Thou would bless us as a council this evening as we undertake the business of the city, that we would be guided and directed and making those decisions that would be appropriate and proper for the benefit of all in our community. We give gratitude and thanks unto Thee, and again, especially for Thy Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ, for the blessings in our lives that come because of Him and His sacrifice. And we ask for these blessings, and we do this at this time and do it in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Weston, and thank you, Councilman Turek. It's always good to have a scout troop in here. We appreciate your coming. Move on to item 1, approval of the agenda. There is one item we need to table till the next city council meeting. That's item 5A.
Mayor, do you want it tabled? Do you want it removed from this agenda? Does it matter? I'll just remove it.
Okay, let's remove it.
So Mayor, I'll make the motion that we approve the agenda, removing item 5A from tonight's meeting.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second.
Rick, aye.
Miller, aye.
Tyson, aye.
Bellis and I.
Thank you. Item 2, announcements. Is there anything to be brought forth as far as announcements are concerned? Maybe we could mention tomorrow there's the What's Up Down South Business Conference that the Washington County holds every year. It's usually well attended and good speakers, so make an announcement of that. Item 3, declaration of abstentions and conflicts. Any to declare at this time? The council. Okay, item 4, consent agenda to approve minutes of the city council meetings 12/9/2015, to approve the board audit report for December, and to approve the alcohol licenses unless we need to do that separately. Probably do that all the same. Items A, B, and C on the alcohol licenses.
Here, I'll make the motion that we approve the consent agenda, which consists of minutes from 12/9/2015 city council meeting, our board audit report, which we discussed last evening, and the alcohol licenses renewal for the off-premise licenses for Albertsons, First Stop, Hearts Gas and Food, Maverick, the service station, and Walmart, And for the following on-premise licenses for Coral Canyon Grill, Don Pedro's, Royal Thai Cuisine, and also for an on-premise recreation license for Green Springs Golf Course and Coral Canyon Golf Course.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion and second.
Ranger, aye.
Ellis, aye.
Right, and I.
Segmiller, aye.
Turek, aye.
Thank you. Those are approved. Item 5A, we struck that. We'll move on to item 5B, consideration to appoint the 2016 Planning Commission Chair. Now, we want to go ahead and do that one. I'd like to recommend that we continue utilizing Jason Smith for another year as the Planning Commission Chair. Any discussion on that, or I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that the council appoint Jason Smith, the current chair, as the 2016 Planning Commission Chair.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. Motion and second.
Turek, aye.
Segmiller, aye.
Right, and I.
Ellis, aye.
Ranger, aye.
Thank you. Item 6, plat amendment. Consideration to approve a plat amendment, for the Heritage Field subdivision, Phase 3, second amended and extended to extend the boundary of the subdivision for Lot 75 located at 1538 South Heritage Field Drive. Applicant Mark and Heather Conan.
Was a whole lot faster than happened last week for some reason. It took us a while, but it's up and that's good. I'm just going to zoom in on basically the area we're talking about tonight. Some of the council will remember this one, and I'll explain that in a minute, but we are here requesting approval of the second amended and extended final plat for Heritage Fields Phase 3. Just to put this in a nutshell, the only area being affected is Lot 75 right there, and it's that area that kind of sticks down. That's kind of a triangular looking piece that where you see that quarter section line wording right there. It's all that that's down below. The original subdivision line went right straight across there. And so this particular applicant is the owner of Lot 75, wishes to add a little bit to their backyard area. Just to note, that's, you're wondering what that hashed area is, that's all designated floodplain. So in essence, you can build in floodplains, but it takes a little bit of an act of Congress, not a total, but somewhat that way. But they were just wanting to extend their lot out. The reason I say you might recognize this, it was a little over a year ago that we passed this, but the applicants had a problem getting signatures from the property to the south. They could get one of the signatures, but the other one was with a bank. And nobody in that bank, from what I understand, knew who could sign or couldn't sign, and it just kept getting passed from one person to another to another. And a year later, they finally got someone to sign, and he came in to record it, and I had to break the bad news that it had expired. So I says, but let's take care of it. Just drop in a quick application. I'll get it to the Planning Commission, City Council again. So they did go to the Planning Commission last week. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval again for the second amended and extended final plat for Heritage Fields Phase 3 based on the findings and subject to the conditions in the report. And I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have any, but it gets fairly straightforward. They're just extending that boundary, thus they had to go through the amended process.
What's back there now?
Field.
So is it being farmed as field then?
Well, I don't know if anybody I think they might have grown some alfalfa in there, maybe, but I don't know. I know that when you go a little, let me get my bearings right, south, this direction, it was definitely alfalfa being grown in the field that where these tables are, even though these tables aren't out in the field. But in that area, it was definitely alfalfa, but I don't know. I can't remember if behind this particular area.
That's my uncle's
There may not
property. That's
be.
my uncle's property.
Okay.
They've leased it to Ralph Staley.
And I don't know if they had been growing anything.
A little bit, not much.
Okay. But I think it was all that area, but it was alfalfa that was being grown out there, if anything.
So they just bought that little piece from them.
They did a little exchange. You notice there's a little triangle that kind of pops up by the road. They did a little bit of a land swap and a purchase. So it wasn't equal acreage for acreage. So they gave, because lot 75 included that little triangular piece. If you want me to go, it's right where that 175.51 is. That goes up by the road, and they did a land swap and an exchange of money, from what I understand. So.
Any other questions or comments for Drew on this?
If not, Mayor, I'll go ahead and make the motion that we approve the plat amendment for the Heritage Field subdivision Phase 3, second amended and extended for the boundary of the subdivision for lot 75, located at 1538 South Heritage Fields Drive.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion in 2 seconds.
A double second.
We'll have it doesn't, either Councilman Bellison or Councilman Nyson, either one of those. Arm wrestle if you want.
I'll give.
Okay, you'll concede?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right,
Turek, aye.
Bellis and I.
thank you very much. That's approved. Item 7, public hearings and related ordinances. Item A, public hearing for consideration to approve zone change request Z-15-17 to change present zone from PUD, planned unit development, to R-1-8 single family residential, 8,000 square foot minimum, located in Indian Springs and lots north of Indian Circle. Applicant Mike Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. This is kind of a unique proposal, and we'll get through it. Hopefully you've read the report on it, but it's a unique one. Haven't done one of these for a while, so let's just kind of dive in. The applicant is stated is requesting the zoning change of approximately 19.268 acres. This is including all of the Indian Springs subdivision, and there's roughly the lots that are in question that are driving this. Are right up here, these two parcel IDs, W222D and W26E1A. And then again, all of the Indian Springs subdivision. The requested change is from the current PUD as stated by the mayor to the proposed single family residential 8,000 square foot minimum, the R18 zoning. The R8 zoning request actually is from Washington City, but because the developer wants to come in and develop on these lots, we needed to do a zone change. And now I can explain why. Many, many years ago, before my time, River Shadow Estates, Indian Springs, and Mesa Shadow, which is right next to Indian Shadow, came in as a one big PUD zoning approval with all the required open space. Part of that open space is these two parcels that you see here is what's driving this tonight. Before that PUD ever made it really all the way through being built, it fell into foreclosure. Not sure why, but it did. And so subsequently what happened is River Shadow Estates got bought by one developer. Indian Springs got bought by another developer. They just broke up the land. And Mesa Shadow was a third developer, and they were all different. And they built out their subdivisions, but the city didn't follow through and follow the PUD plan. It was just something that was missed. I don't know what happened. It really doesn't matter at this point. So for quite a while, these parcels up here were actually part of the open space that were supposed to be left open and used as kind of a trail system. And there was supposed to be a park that was built alongside Mesa Shadow that never did come to fruition. The city tried many times. Mr. Starkey knows, he wrote many a letter to that developer trying to get that taken care of, and we've never been able to do anything about it. So with people approaching for this particular lots here to build homes on, I told them I'd love to be able to do it, but it's zone PUD and it's part of the open space that was required for that PUD. And I said, and I know it never came and was built, but my hands are kind of tied. So I always requested that they come in and do a zone change, but I wouldn't let them do it just for these pieces, because then I have this PUD and there's no reason for the PUD. And there still today really is no reason for the PUD. So to clean this up, I've just asked, now I haven't made them pay for the whole acreage. I just made them pay for that, but we did it under the whole thing, and we just sent out the notices. So in essence, this change, and I've been a little lengthy, but I need to put it in, make sure the minutes reflect that this is kind of doing some house cleaning and also making these lots now available to actually be developed upon, because then that PUD, this portion of it, is gone, and we can then move forward with getting these lots created to be building lots. So that's roughly the whole proposal in a nutshell. And this zone change does nothing to Indian Springs. It actually kind of, I think, cleans up anything for them for when zoning verifications are done on, say, loans and financing, et cetera, because it'll be a true R18. That's roughly what 90% of the lots are. There's a few of them that are a little bit under, but I wasn't going to let that drive me down to push it into an R16. I just didn't feel that was necessary. We'll let those lots be what they are. And again, there's only 2 or 3 that are less than 8,000 square feet, I think, in the whole outlined area. So with that said, we took it to the Planning Commission a couple weeks ago. They heard this request on their November 18th, 2015 meeting. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of Z-15-17 for the zone change request from the planned unit development to the proposed single-family residential 8,000 square foot R18 zoning designation to the City Council, and it's based on the findings in your report. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have. There might be a lot of them, or it just makes sense. And so, but I'm be more than glad to answer any question you might have.
Yeah, those 2 areas that show PD zone, are those are remaining PD zone for Mesa Shadow then?
They will at this
'Cause they're
point.
kind of open space too.
They are. I'm not so concerned about the River Shadow one because of its uniqueness by the river, and they have some open spaces. That one's fitting to stay like it is. Don't be surprised within the next little bit. I have a lot of developers looking at the piece, but I'm not sure if the subdivision, at one time they were really wanting to get rid of that area that was designated as park in Mesa Shadow. I think that's cooled since, but I know they have a lot of people inquiring to buy those from, because right now, from what I understand, the HOA actually owns those parcels. They're in their ownership and control, and they're paying taxes on them, but they're just,
Well, and they haven't done anything with them.
and we've tried to get the park, but we're not going to be able to do that. I mean, I can probably safely say with a 99% surety that we've tried to go through that route, and I don't know if we'll be able to even make the old developer come back, and I don't think we can. So there will probably come in the future. I'm not saying when, but I think there will come a time when Mesa Shadows, if they come to develop them, we'll go through the zone change with them as well. We'll just do it, a simple zone change again to get it out of PUD, because it is not a functioning PUD, and I just don't like having them called that when they don't meet what they intended to go in and approve for. So I'd like to clean them up, and this is just one of those cases and a good example of that. So.
You don't have any concern with that, especially that Mesa Shadows one that's surrounded with.
I really don't at this point. I mean, I thought about maybe just throwing that in, but I didn't want to, it would have took time to find the owners, and it may have been a lot of them would have had to sign and give the okay instead. And I was like, right now I know eventually I think we'll get this cleaned up. I mean, there may come a point where I just ask you folks if you're okay with me doing it, within the next year and a half, if nothing does happen. It's just there's been a lot of inquiries of people trying to pick those up. So I'm just kind of waiting for that to come forth, and that we
I've heard
can
a
do
lot of
that.
rumors of different things that were going to come and go up in there myself. So I know
Yeah.
there's been a lot of talk. with
And
that.
eventually, with the amount of talk, usually action somewhat follows after a while.
So
So
the HOA owns it. So if those got rezoned, the HOA could sell those as lots.
they can resell them now. It's just that I'm going to come back and do what we've done here. We need to get out of PUD because they're, for those lots to be created, I'd just as soon have them follow some sort of a zoning, either redo the PUD just for your Mesa Shadows, or just straight zone it. Because I try to push most people to go to straight zoning in cases like this, when there is no need for a PUD. They can still have HOAs for some common area, for landscaping in a few areas. You don't need to be a PUD to do that. So usually we want a PUD because there's an amenity in there and they got benefits for doing it. And but the straight zoning would be more appropriate.
Drew, is there a functioning HOA in Indian Springs? Do you know?
I don't think, I'm glad someone's here and there isn't, but there is one in Mesa Shadow, from what I understand. Now, how functioning they are, I'm not sure, but they do have a board because of that land. I think they do have to keep it
Well, I just-
together in that
I
one.
was just gonna say, if there is, I'm assuming that we've heard from them that they're.
Well, we noticed everybody in the subdivision, let them know. We got quite a few phone calls and we just told them and I think everybody understood because they've even, over the years, I've had even people in both these subdivisions come in and say, why are we a PUD? I mean, because I thought PUDs had to have this, 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 or this. And I'd say, and I'd give them the history and then they go, well, that doesn't make any sense. And I think everybody understands. It's just doing
This is one
again.
of those you learn your lesson from, that you say, build the park first and then start on the house second.
Well, we've kind of made some changes in that through Public Works. We're starting to put people do some bonding up on some of those, which is a good thing as they build those subdivisions. So
Is the Comcast or the concept of a park or a trail or anything going through there, is that completely lost?
in this particular case, it will be. But as I talked with, and Barry wasn't too concerned because they used to have a concept of a park going on this side of the river. But since we really can't get, it would be too much of a fiasco to try to get across the river and bring the park. And there is a trail that's actually on the canal that's a little, trying to get my bearing straight, southeast of these particular lots that still runs up the canal. There is a trail plan for that, but not to bring it over. They thought about bringing it over to the river at this point, but it just wasn't going to work out.
Yeah, didn't we have a trail? I thought we had a trail easement that was coming up where the old River Edge Road was, and was planning on coming through a piece of that, where your W-220 who's at, kind of up through that little parcel, as I understood, to try and access that canal trail. Yeah, I was gonna say, I know that
Yeah.
we did when we abandoned that road, that we,
And if those things are still in, if that's part of there, and like I say, we can check that before they develop on these lots. I'm not too concerned. They can always give up a 10-foot, 15-foot swath across the north part.
because I know
And
that
tie
was,
that
yeah, that
over.
was part of what we were trying to do, is to tie that trail system together with the park and the other trail system. And I know when we abandoned River Edge that we did maintain a trail easement through
Yeah.
there.
And I'll have to get with Barry and find out where he's going to bring those over because I think he had a couple of different options. And if it's still there, then and that's what's on our master plan, then they'll have to adhere to that. And I'll follow up with that.
Through the lot lines that are drawn in on here, is that the way they want to break it?
They're
up?
conceptual. Yeah, we're not, I will make note, we're not approving. That's just what I think they put in to see how the lots would go. They will have to come in with a minor
Plat.
subdivision plat. And they can even try, I mean, I don't know why they could ask to extend, again, if Indian Springs wants to let them come in, we could ask for an amended and extended, or they just create their own 4-lot subdivision up there. You probably will see this again, is what I'm telling you, with the actual minor subdivision sometime in the near future. If this passes, I guess I shouldn't speak far out.
What's the status of the storm drain out of Indian Knolls 3?
Pass that on to my.
That's on them. That's fine. I'm just curious.
I think that's been holding them for a while we haven't seen completion of number 3 up there yet. It's a few of the big things.
Any other questions for Drew? Thank you. This is a public hearing. We invite any members of you out there in our public that has an interest in this project or a concern or a comment, please come on up. We ask you to state your name and your concern or your comment.
Greg Foreman, and I live in Indian Springs there on White Sands Drive. I just wanted to make the comment, I don't think the HOA for Mesa Shadows is existing any longer, or I know 2 of the people that were kind of the spearheaders of that Shaw and somebody else. I can't remember her name, or her name was Shaw. Coach Shaw's wife.
Oh,
And remember who the other gentleman was, had long hair.
oh, I know who you're talking about. It's,
And they kind of had that going, and they
Yeah.
did a little bit of improvement behind there to help with the flooding that happens, because we do get water down there. But so I don't think that HOA is still existing, or functioning, I should say. It should still exist.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second.
Turek, aye.
Peg Miller, aye.
Bryson, aye.
Bellis, aye.
Granger, I.
Thank you. Item B, consideration to approve an ordinance approving the zone change Z-15-17 to change present zone from PUD to R-18.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make the motion if there's no further discussion that the council approves zone change Z-15-17 to change the present zone from PUD to R18.
I'll second that.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second.
Granger, I.
Thank you.
Bellis, aye.
Bryson, aye.
Peg Miller, aye.
Turek, aye.
All right, that's approved. Thank you very much. Move on to item C, public hearing for consideration to approve a general plan amendment request, G-15-05, to change the land use designation from CCOM, Community Commercial, to Medium Density MD, located approximately 4300 South Washington Fields Road. Applicant Stephen Sinister.
Thank you, Mayor. As stated, this is a general plan land use amendment. The area coverage is 2.0 acres. It's the hashed blue area that you see in the exhibit and on the screen. Wasn't too long ago, the applicant brought in and had a band that bordered and on this piece of property that he owns, and went from north to south on it to be community commercial for future. But since that time, has felt he's just going to leave the north portion that you can see in the area designated as a commercial, and give up the south portion and put it back into medium density residential. He just feels like he doesn't need as much commercial there. He still wants to hold on to that for future development, but wants to add this 2 acres back into the residential side of it, is the simplicity of this. And so the Planning Commission reviewed the request at their December 2nd, 2015 meeting, and the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of G-15-05 to amend the general plan land use map as outlined in your exhibit and in my explanation. So I'll be glad to answer any questions that the council might have on this request.
I think one of my first questions is just kind of the bigger policy concept. Field Road is a large arterial road. This is, 2 acres that largely track along the border of Fields Road. Why would we general plan this other than the commercial plan zoning that it has?
Well, we could have went either way. In the general plan, it was designated actually as open space and park, because the city at one time, back in 2004 and 5, thought about using this particular area for, I think, a future maybe cemetery or ball fields, was why it was left and put in the way it was. Before Mr. Sinister bought it, that's what the 2 items that it was in. Partial park to the piece that borders him to the south, and the rest of it was left open space, because I wasn't here when they did the general plan, but I've gathered that's what was being looked at, the ballpark or cemetery in that area. And so the city kind of left it, those 2 different zones, for maybe potential. It's probably not going to happen now. We've let people come in and make application to what they want. So we never really designated it other than what it was, open space,
Motion
originally.
tonight says that doesn't say that it's open space. It says that it's community commercial.
That's because he came in about
We just
a
changed
year ago and changed it. It
Okay.
should look a little familiar to you as well, this piece. We did change it, and then in that short time, he just feels that he's not going to utilize the 4 acres of commercial. He just wants to use 2 acres of commercial on north and turn the bottom to match the medium density that he got in the general plan amendment, just a little while back within the past year. So that's kind of what the history of behind that is just in the last 12 months.
So the whole area here was open space, not just this.
Just this area, it went over to the east, actually, toward the BLM, et cetera, because this does, on this edge, you can, they've labeled it right there. It abuts that BLM piece. It's actually part of the south of that debris basin, and where Highway 7 now goes. That's all that BLM strip. Some of it was protected. Well, I think this BLM piece is still protected, but it will probably lose that. All the protection just needs to be on the east side of the southern corridor now.
So this same parcel came up in planning commission last week.
Not last week, it was last month.
Last month.
You're seeing a zone change that's coming forward, but
Right.
because of not being able to meet all of our meetings, I didn't want to hold that up. So that's why-
Commercial north of that was kept, and the commercial on the west side of the road, that little triangle was kept as commercial, correct?
Yeah, this is the general plan part. Now he's coming back with the zone change. Because they did the general plan amendment and then did a zone change. Now he's coming back wanting to change that because he doesn't want 4 acres of commercial. He just wants the 2, and to change the bottom 2 acres to match with the development, the medium density development to the east.
Does he have current plans to develop that?
We can invite him up here. I think he does, but it's best you hear it from him. I don't want to make assumptions because he better be here. Because I thought I saw him. So
Well, but the very low density right there, that's because that's hillside.
that's that little piece. And yeah, if you were in the meeting, we talked about, because in the zone part where you see this BLD, that's that part that goes right down by the nursery, but starts up the ridge where the Gibbies live and the few homes that are up there. That very low density piece is not going to be very usable. Even you can see the faint road which you turn in to go down to the nursery right there. Those 2 lines you see that are kind of faint right there above the VLD. That's roughly where a proposed road and where the access is right now. So there's really not much use there. If anybody wants to buy it, it could be whoever develops over there. So he's just not going to mess with it. That was part of what the general plan had originally on that piece. On that side of Washington Fields Road. So unless you have any other questions for me, I'd invite Mr. Simister to come up maybe. I think you might have a question or 2 for him, if that's okay. Mayor.
Absolutely be great.
Hi, I'm Steven Simister. Be more than happy to ask or answer any questions that you have on our proposal here.
The one question I have is, do you feel there's going to be any concern that now we box that little piece in with residential so tight all around it? One of the things we start to see, or I've seen in the past, when we get these smaller commercial areas, especially with residential packed on top of them, all of a sudden they get the residents saying, hey, we don't want commercial here. We don't want commercial here. And it becomes more of a challenge even to get your commercial. The roadways are fairly straight and some of that, so you probably don't run into some of the problems we've seen in the past. But do you feel there's going to be any concern with boxing yourself as tight as you are there?
Well, what our plan is to go ahead and move forward here fairly quickly as far as zoning, so that way by the time any homes or anything go in there, it's already in place and that would already be disclosed and known.
So they
by
know that
any,
it's going to be commercial.
yeah. And so that we would avoid that problem of coming back and doing that later and then having homeowners, upset that we're trying to zone it after they've already moved in or anything like that. So,
Appreciate that.
our plan is to move forward on that south piece there. It's actually 2 parcels. So the south piece, we're looking to move forward right away on the residential and then move into the north piece. We would like to go ahead and zone the whole thing all at once is what our plan is to do. And then we thought that it would match really well. Kind of our final conclusion was that north piece commercial is right across the street from, I believe it's Gibby. Is it Gibby that has, and it kind of matches that general plan commercial. So that's what originally came in and did the general
Correct. That's, I
plan.
remember, that's why we were,
Yeah, and
we
it
were
kind
excited
of,
to see it, so that's why I hate to see it leave. to be honest
yeah,
with you.
yeah. So the north piece, I guess, we felt it matches that piece because the little triangle actually goes right next to that property. So anyway, that was our thought process, and to avoid, I guess, what your question was, is that we would like to zone that up front so everything's disclosed before any homeowners move in.
Thank you. Any other questions? You got off easy.
Had me nervous.
Good to see you again. This is a public hearing. Any of you out there that would be interested in making a comment on this or a question or concern, you're welcome to come up. I'll give you 30 more seconds. 29, 28. Yeah. Looks like no other comment. I'll entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
Mayor, seeing no public comments, I'll make the motion that we close the public hearing.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second.
Ranger, aye.
Thank you.
Bellis and I.
Nice night.
Segmiller, aye.
Turek, aye.
Thank you. That is closed. We'll move on to item D, consideration to approve an ordinance approving a general plan amendment, G-15-05, to change land use designation from CCOM to MD.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that the council approve an ordinance approving a general plan amendment G-15-05, changing the land use designation in the general plan from community commercial to medium density.
Thank you. Have a motion to have a second.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Turek, aye.
Segmiller, aye.
Nice night.
Bellis and I.
Granger, aye.
Thank you. That's approved. Move on to item 8, agreement consideration to approve an MOU agreement between the Groves LLC and Washington City for storm drain impact fee credits for Sticky Farms. Mike Shaw.
Thank you, Mayor. Last night in the work session, we presented this, had a little bit of discussion on it. What this is briefly is the memorandum of understanding between Washington City and the Groves LLC, Sticky Farms. This identifies the impact fee credits that they will receive as they start proceeding with plats and installing the storm drainage system in their development. They will install the drainage system, and after that is completed and built to the city standards, then they will be eligible to receive that impact fee credit on the next plat that they propose to the city. So with that, any other questions you may have?
Anything? Councilman Granger? Councilwoman, sorry.
No, I appreciate the information we got last night and how extensive it was, and move approval of the agreement between the MOU agreement between the Groves and Washington City for the storm drain impact.
Thank you. Have a motion to have a second.
I'll second.
Go ahead. Start us off.
Turek, aye.
Segmiller, aye.
Nice night.
Bellis and I.
Granger, aye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Move on to item 9, Power Department, consideration to approve an ordinance creating the guidelines for a power board. I will defer that to the city manager, Roger Carter.
Thank you, Mayor, and I want to excuse Mr. Carlson again. He is out ill still. So we had a great discussion last night and appreciated the council's input and modifications. We did make those modifications with respect to the size of the board, as well as the voting, what constituted a voting quorum and those type of things. I believe that those are reflected in front of you. Councilman Granger had kind of shared with me a couple of typo issues, as well as some a couple of other things. And you want to review those just to.
For example, on 761, to simplify D, says the power board functions as an advisory board to the city council, and as such is only a recommending body, period, and getting rid of the rest of that language. It's not really necessary, I think.
Council, give me 1 second to put my draft of that also.
You have the current one, right? The one
I
that
did.
got added? Okay.
I do.
The 17D1, got it. Okay, good. Like, I agree. I wanted to make sure, so there was no other purpose that you could see that we needed that.
No, I think staff would support
Okay, good.
that change.
Okay, good. I thought so too.
Okay, and 760B5, simply making it clear that, and I'm not sure it's still clear, is that if expenses are incurred, that we've created a budget or funds to do that and approve them before they're expended. I'm not sure that's still clear.
So what I recommended possibly as consideration is that we add into that section, and Councilwoman, you tell me if this is adequate, that as per the budgetary and purchasing policies. So again, that all falls on the fact that the council have to have a budgeted approved, or it has to, and it has to follow the purchasing policies.
Okay, so it
You
has
would,
to,
you would put that at the first part of the paragraph?
So I don't remember how we kind of did this. Furthermore, the city council may provide for the reimbursement of the power board for actual expense reasonably incurred in the exercise of designated or pre-approved power board assignments or duties upon presentation of proper receipts and vouchers as per the budget and purchasing policies of the city.
okay, it has per approved budget, because we have no budget for this, so I just say as per approved budget, okay?
Yeah, I would anticipate this board would probably function under the power budget. So there would be an entity probably added into the power budget through the power. That's where they should be funded. They are strictly power and should be funded through the power department. Or power
And
budget.
I suspect at this point, the power department doesn't have a budget for this.
No, it wouldn't have a line item. That's why I'd say that it'd probably be a line item that's added in our next adopted budget.
Okay.
And that's how we would structure it. We'll bring this back, if it's approved, we'll bring this back as a budget, during our next budget opening and adjust that. But he strengthens that language. Yes, that's where we would place it.
And 768, at the end of the sentence, it talks about, is required to carry any motion or take any power board action. I wonder if they've got a motion. I'm not quite sure what we mean by take any power board action. I wonder if that's pretty limiting if we're requiring majority votes to act at all. You know, be it a single person's given an
I think it's
assignment.
a term of art, to be honest with you, take any action, because it's almost like we say that in regards to the city council often, that no action can be taken unless, it's kind of a term of art. I think it's used regularly, but we can make that more specific. It was kind of meant to be general because we want to make sure that nothing official can occur. They're not going to have a lot of power other than recommendations anyway, is the reality of it. So, but even if they make a recommendation, do we agree that we're going to recommend a rate increase and they have to take that motion? So motion or action, we just want to make sure they really can't do anything in their official capacity. They have that quorum there and they have a majority of the vote. So it would be kind of generic on purpose.
Yeah, for me, it would be defining action because we don't want it completely. Yeah. Okay, and that means something to you that it didn't.
Yeah, it's kind of a term of art, taking action.
And then 760, I think just some clarification language. Substantively what was on there.
So maybe if we can add that same, per the budgetary and purchasing policies.
Yes, and it says shall not be in excess of such sums as may be appropriated by the city council, which is to the power budget, which then is.
One other one to add to Councilwoman Granger's comments. In letter B of 761, it's not 761 subsection B.
Okay.
My question isn't so much a correction of language. I just want to make it clear. The way I read it, it appears that the council member that's appointed to this board must live within the geographical area that receives electrical services from the city. Is that what we intend?
Well, I don't think that's what we intended. You're right, it probably reads it that way.
That's how it
but
reads.
I'm not-
Is that
I'm
what
not-
we
I'm not sure
intend?
we necessarily intended.
And maybe I agree with that. Maybe the council member should also be one that lives within this area, but this council's never really segregated itself based on that. We have the entire council regardless of where they live.
I didn't intend that. What I had to do, because I can pretty consistently throughout, but either voting and non-voting, was if no person shall be appointed to serve as a voting member of the power board, because you're right. And, yeah, you're right. Council person could easily,
I mean, the way
Yeah,
it reads today, Councilman Turek and I think Councilman
no,
Ellison
that's a
could
good point.
serve.
We'll put voting member.
Get you out of an assignment.
Hey, one less committee.
But I like your thought too, because I think it's great not to begin to set a precedent where you are segregating the council itself, especially as they act as a body.
Yeah, no, I'll put voting member there, but no, we're
My-
talking about the voting members only.
My thought is because it's a non-voting member and because the power board won't be able to vote on any policy that the council doesn't approve, that it should be a member, a council member from any.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
Okay, that's the only thing I would add.
And other than that, Mayor, of course, staff would recommend approval. Changes.
I actually have a couple of questions. I mean,
Sure.
Maybe this is just, for my sake. So what's the time frame once this gets implemented? We talked about getting this board structured and set up, but we haven't really talked time frame and.
I think we would anticipate that once the ordinance is in place, then probably at your very next meeting, you can have appointments. The mayor can start to recommend appointments, which means that we could have them functioning as early as the 1st of February or right there, the 1st of February, I should say.
I would appreciate suggestions. Please,
Would you like those?
Approve, yeah, we might not approve it.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah, maybe.
after your, whatever you decide, or not, I guess.
Mayor, since it sounds like you're asking for a motion, I'm going to make the motion that we approve the creation of, approve the ordinance that creates the power board for the city of Washington as per the ordinances before us and those corrections that have been noted this evening.
May I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second?
Granger, aye.
Thank you.
Ellis and I.
Nice and I.
Seg Miller, aye.
Turek, aye.
Okay,
Now that it's passed,
now that it's passed, I can,
clarification
I
wise,
can
would you like those names submitted in writing? Email
Please.
to you so that way?
email,
Okay.
send it to me, an email. And I want them to be by 10 o'clock tonight, so
We'll get right on it.
phone numbers, addresses, personal information.
That when you're doing, at least take into consideration as you're looking at assignments tonight too. That's probably gonna be a new assignment you don't have on there.
We don't at this
So-
point.
So as we put those recommendations in and all that, we've got obviously a couple issues with the power that we've got to try and schedule, with the current recommendations from the power department and
Right.
the board, so.
Discussion, even as the board, I mean, there is a recognition, I think even by the council, that there will be continued discussions with this council with regards to those issues that you're referring to as the board is being brought up to speed. So in some sense, you won't have all, maybe at certain points down the road, you may not have exactly the board in the position to be able to make a recommendation, but because we do have two concurrent things still going on, but we're trying to get them as up and running as fast as possible so they can get involved and help out as well. But you're right, there are two concurrent things that, at least initially, there's still going to be some discussion with this council.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions on this? If not, we'll move on to a resolution on item 10. Consideration to approve a resolution amending the master fee schedule to reflect changes to the sports parks, land use, and golf course. Denise, is that right? You want to go ahead, Tara? Okay. Are there any questions or changes that,
Did that spelling get changed on tournament? Thank you.
what they call it, tournament? Is that what they did?
Missing an A and an A.
That's just indicative of our area, isn't it? Okay, if there are no questions or other added thoughts to this, I'll entertain a motion to approve or deny.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution amending the master fee schedule to reflect changes to the sports parks, land use, and golf course sections.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Rick, aye.
Segmiller, aye.
Right, tonight?
Fellas, tonight.
Ranger, aye.
Thank you very much. Those are resolutions are approved. Item 11, annual council business. We'll move into item A, consideration to approve the 2016 meeting schedule for city council. Any discussion on that? I'm thinking we're still second and fourth, Tuesday and Wednesday.
Are we going to talk tonight about maybe cancellations because of holidays and things like that?
We
It'd be
should.
appropriate if you have some.
Do you have those dates, Tara, right there? Local government, or League of Cities, okay. Okay. It's,
Primary voting day?
August 11th is a Thursday.
It's a Thursday, so it wouldn't be that.
Yeah. 13th is, August 10th is a Wednesday.
It'd be a Tuesday if it's an election issue.
Yeah, August 11th isn't. That's true. Is there other state primaries, aren't there? There'll be other state races.
Yeah,
It's
there would
it's
be.
a
It's a
Thursday.
Thursday.
yeah.
2015.
It's probably August 9th.
March,
It's May.
or 1st of May, April, May.
I didn't see any errors in the rest of it, and I plugged it in.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Well, if there's a change, that's far enough away, we can discuss that before. Yes, yes. I would.
I think that's important. Some of them have been well attended, have been great. Some have been less.
Public
attended.
forums,
I've been to one.
okay.
I still have 6.
Okay, we can move forward with entertain a motion to approve the 2016 meeting schedule.
Mayor, I'll make the motion to approve the 2016 meeting schedule for the city council as presented tonight.
For a motion, have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion and second.
Ranger, aye.
Fellas, tonight.
Right, tonight?
Segmiller, aye.
Turek, aye.
Thank you. Consideration to approve the 2016 council member assignments. I'm going to go through the list. Some of them haven't been filled yet, and that's okay. But what I will do is then I will have Denise or Tara type this up, email it to you, or send it to you, along with the attachment of when those meetings are. I think you have that, but we'll just do that again if you're okay with that.
Is it in our packet? Because I don't know that I have it.
Yeah, it's in your agenda 11B, your PDF 11B info. one
No, no,
guy.
no, I've got that with the names, the
Oh,
old names,
yeah.
but you said along
I'll
with
have-
the
well, I'll-
times and stuff like that.
Well, I
for
think
when-
it on your
When the
one,
meetings are.
on the 11B, your first one, your info usually has the times and your contact information, and
Oh, okay.
usually
All right.
that'll tell you when those are being held and whatnot.
Okay.
Okay, we have a new one, Active Transportation Committee. Nobody volunteered for that one yet, so I'll leave that one open.
Can you describe that one, Mayor, or is there someone that can describe that?
I'll defer that to
It's
city
actually,
manager.
yeah, it's a recommendation that's come out of the health department. It's actually one that we felt comfortable enough bringing back to the council. And what it is, because we've actually had these discussions internally, and that is just how we promote our trail system, our bike paths, how we make them friendly on our cyclists on the roadway, to basically promote this active lifestyle. I know that we, Mike and I and Barry have had discussions about, road corridors and things like that with our bicycling. And so Kai Nordfeld with the Southwest Health is kind of encouraged, have met with me, and I believe visited with the mayor about it as well. And we thought it'd be kind of fun to involve some citizens. It'll involve public health. It'll involve the Bicycle Reliance Group, our infrastructure people, leisure services and others. And so we thought it might be just kind of good committee. And so that was just the recommendation. Just
What's the anticipated monthly meeting?
I don't know. I think they'll decide. I had Mr. Nordfeld kind of write up a description. I can send it out to you. And I think he would like to see at least, at an active committee. So I'd say at least monthly. I don't know. I thought they could serve, kind of have some service to the community and helping us to identify areas we can promote an active lifestyle.
Would they feed into our general plan?
I think so. And since we're going to be doing a massive general plan process, that's the way I'll say it. Since we're going to be doing a general plan process this year, that's exactly what we will have. So trails, the trails definitely fit into all that. I wouldn't see why the road, the bike paths and other things wouldn't fit in there as well, because in our time past, we identified those as part of the general plan, at least on the maps.
When does that general plan process start? And we hired now, there's an outside engineering firm that's looking at it?
We'll hire somebody probably to help us through that. All I know is that Drew's got a drop dead date of December 31st of this year that plan needs to be in place. So he's kind of working the timetable through now.
No pressure.
Be fun.
Okay, maybe one of you will maybe think about that one. And we have names from the community, so a business leader, we've got some staff that are going to be on that committee.
I wonder if it would be useful, Mayor, to put someone from the planning commission on that.
Not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. Thank you. Actually, I like that. Thank you. Do that. Chamber of Commerce, it sounds like Councilman Belston is going to become a member of that, correct? So
Correct.
he's offered to go ahead and represent us there. The community center and the celebration events were run by Truman and Staley, and nobody stepped up yet, but that's okay. I think we can think about that one. I help out there also.
I think that's a good one to have somebody involved with
I agree.
that when they have those meetings, because oftentimes they really look for some direction from the council, some help from the council in planning and bringing feedback back from events to this council. So I think it'd be important to make sure we have somebody that's sitting on that board.
Anybody want to volunteer? We'll move on. We can think. I can,
I could volunteer if I could get out of one down below, Mayor. I've never served on the community center committee,
okay,
and so it might be a good opportunity, but that's maybe if you want to leave it open for now and keep going through the list.
okay. We'll put
Maybe
signal
I'll-
or tentative question mark at this point. Celebrations and events. I don't know how involved Councilman Staley was
I
in
think that's
that.
just part of that community
Pat,
center.
okay.
Committee, yeah.
Yeah, they split that used to be the same thing, and then when they had two of them there, they kind of split it between them, but I think it was more just between the two of them. It wasn't really the council.
Mayor, and I may just state for Councilwoman Granger and Councilman Bellison's, I guess, just recall. This is just kind of every year or I guess it's every year, the mayor, we go through this list, and if you're interested, speak up and put your name on the list.
He's tagged.
Okay, so he's good.
Okay, thank you. A community education channel, actually, I think I'd like to handle that one at this point. Mayor Hart is the chairman of that, and he's asked for another mayor to maybe join him, so I think I'll see all about that. Dixie MPO, Councilman Turk has to stay on that one, economic development. I think all of you have an interest in that. I put down Councilman Belliston. And we had Councilman Staley. Councilman Segmiller was kind of taking his place a little bit, had an interest. I'm not opposed to having all of you interested in that. But, Councilman Belliston had a little more of extreme interest, so we'll assign him to that. Economic development, that's myself, sorry. Flood Control Authority, they've asked for 2 members of the council and an alternative. Councilman Turk and Belliston have asked to do that, and then we'll have
Say that one again.
Flood Control Authority, FCA. Am I correct in that? Troy, I had you.
No. I'm good with that. We just jumped a few in my.
Well, the other ones are mine, so I just moved on.
Okay.
With an alternative, alternate on that would be Councilman Segmiller. Legislative Policy Committee, Councilwoman Granger has expressed an interest in that one. We'll assign her that. Lower Virgin River Fuel and Fire Plan, Segmiller, Shade Tree, Segmiller, Solid Waste, Segmiller. You still okay with those, or do you want to be dropped off and
Well, the
move
one,
up to the community center?
the fuel and fire one, I mean, it's not a difficult assignment because it never meets. And I may ask Mike Shaw, do we keep me on there just in case they ever have a meeting? So it's not, there's no expectation that the city council, do we need to just remove it as a committee?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember Councilman Bundy was the last one I knew that actually attended anything, and he was quite actively involved with it. That was just right after the flood. Correct, yeah, that was when the flooding events had happened. See, a lot of the things that takes care of, we now handle through flood.
Flood
through the
Control Authority.
So,
Yeah.
Well, I recommend we just eliminate
Eliminate
that
that
one and ask you to be on the community center.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello, Council Stegman. I wonder if a committee that I think you're listed on anyway right now is the Wild Lands
The
Fire,
Fire Committee.
which they do have a lot of active participation from all the cities. So again, I think I'm not sure if that necessarily needs to be an assignment as much as it is you're kind of the go-to person from the elected officials, as I at least get some of that information from the legislative committee. But if we do that, you need to bear in mind, maybe the mayor and other council need to bear in mind, that might take some of your time also as that moves forward, because you certainly have expertise and none of the rest of us
Is there
have.
a local committee that's on there, or are you just talking at the
No, that's the
legislative
whole,
level?
that's the statewide committee that
Yeah,
league is set up.
Yeah.
Council,
And so far, I've been able to just see those webcasts and participate and then pass on information. But at some point, it's probably going to take more from our fire marshal and you and Mike, really from Mike and the fire marshal.
was that
but at
that
least be
meeting we
aware of
went
that.
to in Salt Lake? Was that
What's that?
meeting we went to in Salt Lake? Wildland?
That was that was concerning that one. Yeah, that was. They have a big, it's going to be rolling in really soon here. So just bear in mind, you're probably still the go-to guy in the council, whether you.
I'm happy to be the go-to guy, and I guess we probably don't need to make a committee on that one.
No.
And I and the fire marshal can probably just, as we get closer, bring you in, have you come to lunch, and we'll just show you what's going on. We get some more information maybe, but don't forget that's another kind of commitment you have to your time.
Okay, solid waste, you're okay on that one?
Mhm.
So mosquito abatement, Councilman Nyson, you're okay staying there? All right. The Board of Appeals, we reduced that to one council member because we really haven't had any.
No, just know that by ordinance, you'll have two, I believe, if it ever comes, so
two,
you ought to
okay.
assign two.
All right.
It's a good thing when we don't have it, but you need to designate.
Okay, Councilman Turk. Anybody would be interested in, well, how about Councilwoman, sorry. I'm going to have a hard time with
You're
that one.
not gonna offend me.
Okay. Would you take that assignment?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's just, they call us if you need us.
Yeah, so basically
Right.
what that is really quickly, if there is an employee that has either a termination or something detrimental to their income that has a right to appeal, and not all do, as we talked about, then they have an appeal process established in the city, and we have an appeals board. It consists of a couple of council members that are appointed by the mayor and some staff members that are appointed by the manager. And again, they only meet on if they qualify in a position of appeal.
Lord willing, the creek don't rise. We don't have to worry about that one very much. All right, we'll move on to new hires. Councilman Turek, Investment Committee. I've asked Councilwoman Granger if she would take that. Planning Commission, Councilman Nyson / Councilwoman Granger, and anybody else that would be wanting to. Councilman Troy, do you want to go? I mean, you're all welcome to go.
Well, I'll keep an eye on planning commission anyway, and when stuff comes up,
Well, and we'll want to be careful.
Yeah, we
because
don't
we have
want-
to post. If
Right.
We're going to be gathering, so we really just probably ought to keep it to two.
Okay.
So who's on that now?
Councilman Nyson is, unless you want to defer and have,
If Councilwoman Granger would like it, that's fine.
Oh, I just feel like I need education, so.
let's do that. Let's make that
Yeah,
change.
I can take something else, I guess.
Councilman Nice, would you like to take the flood control authority? It
When
meets
do
on
they- when
a
do they-
monthly basis, the first Tuesday of every month. It's over at the county, we meet at the county building
Sure.
down there.
What
Yeah,
time
that-
is that?
That starts at 5 o'clock. It's down in the basement down there. In fact, the next meeting, if you'd like to, I'll attend with you because I've been the chair of that, so I'll need to, we'll make some changes there, but I'll introduce you to that.
Okay, roads, Councilman Turek, Youth Council, Councilman Belliston. Power Board, anybody volunteer for the Power Board?
I'd be interested in being on it, Mayor. I am worried about my time,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to decide here.
I won't make that assignment yet, and
I'd
I'm gonna put you down and then,
put my name down.
okay. Did we have somebody,
I did step out of economic development, which has been a busier one.
Yeah.
so.
Active Transportation Committee, any takers? Oh, we're gonna do Planning Commission on that, aren't we? Okay. All right, thank you. We will get these out to you. Just a reminder. I'll get you the list.
Tara, will you also take the spreadsheet and make sure the contacts and meeting times are all updated? I'm not sure that I have been through a lot. Yeah, so I don't know if the chamber still meets at the same time, but if we.
It's every other month.
I'll just have you email it to me.
All right, thank you. Okay, we'll get these out to you. Thank you all very much for your willingness to participate and serve in those committees. Item C, we need to approve those, don't we? All right. I need to entertain a motion to approve those.
Mayor, I'll
the
make the
assignments.
motion that we approve the assignments as been gone through and as listed.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Rick, aye?
Seg Miller, aye.
Nice night.
Fellas tonight.
Granger, I.
Thank you all very, very much. And then item C, consideration to elect a mayor pro tem for 2016. I'd like to continue to ask Councilman Turk if he would handle that assignment again.
Certainly be willing.
I'll entertain a motion for a yay or a nay.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that the council elect Councilman Turek as the 2016 Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
Thank you.
Ranger, aye.
Bellis and I.
Nice night.
Segmiller, aye.
Correct, aye.
Okay. Anything to report, those of you that have current assignments? No,
Just got your assignment.
well, yeah. How about city manager report?
Thank you, Mayor. And for the benefit of our new councilman, I think they know this, I just usually try to update on some projects, not only for the council's benefit, but certainly in many nights, and I know we're in basketball season, so CEC is not here when we're in basketball season. They do have their priorities, obviously, but for the benefit of the public as well, and projects going on. So just a few projects since we haven't talked about them. The first one I want to talk about a little bit is a fairly big project that's becoming bigger on us, and we don't know what this means yet, but we've had to begin to address this. As you all know, we've had some settling problems on Telegraph, and we purposely waited on that because we've been trying, we didn't want to go in there and make repairs and then come right back and have to make repairs again while we had settling going on and other things. So out of an abundance of caution, we have done things like reduce the speed limits and shown those and warned people of the rough road. But now the problem we've got is it appears we're compounded, and maybe even this is part of the road issue. I'm sure it is at least part of the road issue, is the hillside is sloughing off and it's undermining our transmission line. And so, the hill is moving. And so we've got two departments working on this right now. We've got power department that is working on this. It's just, isn't it just above where your cut is up on the hill?
On the hill above the road.
Yes, it's on above.
Oh, on the downhill side. Okay.
On the fill slope. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. And that's, but right now that on the roadside or on the hillside, on the power line, we're looking at somewhere between a $300,000 and $400,000 potential fix there.
Are we at the point where we're just shoring it up?
Well, we don't know exactly. And those are rough estimates right now. We don't know if we'd go in there and pier it. We don't know if, what we would do yet. We're actually gonna be working in conjunction with Public Works because we've got to address this problem with the across the board, even though they might be too connected, but
The transmission lines on poles through there, right?
yes, they're
So
the big,
it's
the big
poles that
brown.
we're worried about, yeah.
Mhm.
Is this a strictly a blue clay issue?
I don't think it's blue clay. Yeah, please do. You'd have the best information on that.
So if you remember back the old Telegraph, the little 2-lane road there, this section that's moving on us is actually a very large fill slope that was put in. And I think 2 years ago is when we actually started seeing the movement in the asphalt. We went in, we repaired the movement, and just right after we paved the road, our water line underneath broke. A 12-inch water line split, sent all that water, and most of that water went down into the earth there. We repaired it. A week later, the next section split, sent all that water down there. We're pretty positive that we have a compaction issue there because this was done with federal money, and so under UDOT's oversight. With that large of a fill area, they push material off, and there was boulders the size of Volkswagen Bugs going off there that they don't compact in those deep fill areas. And so over time, I think that those soils have been sifting down around those big rocks, and we've actually bored it. Last year, we actually paid the AGEC geotechnical firm. They came out with their boring rig and they bored that, and we got the samples, and they did find voids down in there, but we did not have any cracking. You can see in this photo here the cracking that's right next to his power pole, and we have it all along that hillside. And 2 months ago we had no cracks in that hillside, so now we're really concerned with it. So we've now hired Landmark testing and geotechnical. They are they're going to look at it and give us options of what we can do to fix it. But what we're doing now is probably tomorrow, we'll have the surveyor out there. They're going to set pins all up the slope And we're going to monitor that slope and find out what it's doing, how it's moving, and hopefully come up with a fix from that. It does. It actually seems like the winter time, as soon as the temperature cools, it seems to drop. Because we monitored it, before we paved this last time, we monitored it, and 6 months, we've seen 1/10 of an inch movement in it. So we had this much movement in 6 months. So that's why we went ahead and had a nice paving job come in, and 3 weeks after that, it dropped 4 inches. So
Are there plans or schedule to rebore it?
not right now.
Stuff like that usually doesn't start to keep settling unless there's water or something like that typically present, so.
Correct. So, and we've tested our water line. We've probably tested it 8 times over the last couple of years to make sure our water line's not leaking. But as far as clay, there is no blue clay down in there. So it's not heaving, it's actually dropping, it's settling. And
It's just the dirt dropping down, filling those voids.
filling those voids, because like I say, 100-foot fill, down at that bottom, they don't require any compaction. And I remember actually when it was being built that I brought that up in our meeting, why are we not compacting? And they said, oh, it doesn't meet standards to have to compact, and this is the way we do it, so.
They interested in assuming that expense?
It's UDOT. No. And it's been 13 years.
It's not a very big site. How hard
No.
is it to, when you go in and redo it, to bridge that?
I don't know. We
And I'm
really
not
haven't
creating-
looked
I'm not
at.
talking creating a big bridge, but.
Oh, I understand. Yeah, we could.
Subsurface.
Yeah, we could bridge it. We could do that. We've looked at excavating it out and bring it and compacting it up, but that would be really pricey, and it would completely shut Telegraph down for probably a month to excavate that out, recompact it, and bring it back up. But it also could be buttressing the toe of the hill. It could be putting earth anchors in. It could be, we can go in and bore down and pump a foam
Slurry.
or slurry into it and stabilize and fill those voids. But until we actually get the data on it, we're just kind of keeping it paved over as much as we can and keep it as safe as we can. Now with the power pole, the urgency has moved up quite a bit with Kelly on this power pole, because the one thing we can't have is that power pole to move and tip over.
So while we're working on this, we have a load shift plan in place. If you lose, we can shift load. And then also we're locating emergency materials in case we need to guy and some other things that maybe. The problem with guying is that just big transmission poles are pretty hard to guy, but we are looking at emergency equipment that we can put in place to just have more comfort with it while we work through these things. So we're working on that. But that's a big one that's, as Mike mentioned, has kind of jumped up on our list, and we'll keep you updated on that. Other items just with power related, we now have, as you know, we had a limited time when, with regards to getting our own air permit. We now are secure. We have now secured our own air permit, so that's a great addition for what we have. We were before under the Hurricane air permit, and we had limited time on that, so we now have our own air permit on that. Sullivan Soccer Park is complete. You may have already thought that, but we've had a punch list, of course, that was fairly extensive, but I believe those items are now pretty well completed, and we'll have our first tournament on February 13th. And the good news along with that too, I'll just jump over, is that it looks like our traffic signaling on Industrial and Sullivan Park is moving along pretty well, and we should have it in place, hopefully. I shouldn't say that. It'll be great if we get that in place before that first tournament. I think that's President's Day weekend as well. So it's going to be a busy time. I think the Parade of Homes is going on.
Are we going to oversee it, or are we just going to play on Norman Bermuda?
Barry?
I'm going to oversee the first year at grass.
We'll just play on Norman grass.
Yeah, we might paint it like we do golf with the pink areas. We might paint it. A lot cheaper.
Okay, just
Paint it
couple.
green.
It doesn't make any difference to how straight I kick the ball, but I'm sure that matters to the other players.
I believe blue, paint it blue.
There you go.
Oh, Boise State. Just a couple other items, boilers, piping, that project will advertise this next week. Yeah. I mentioned the industrial roads signal, 3650. Again, you'll get to know all these roads, maybe you know already this. This is the road just beyond Staley Farm. That now widening is now complete, and it merged in pretty nicely. It was actually an old road at one time that was kind of been chewed up, and they didn't use the old road, but they used that right of way in there and kind of merged into the new road, and it really merged in pretty nice. So it's a good right of way, which is a good connector for us because we have all that traffic down 3000 coming off Mall Drive, 3000 heading either to the Parkway or to the airport. So that's a good east-west connector. Our east-west connectors are always our challenges, it seems like, out there in the fields. Washington Fields Phase 4 project is advertised. Bids will be opened on January 26th. That's widening of the road from Lost Ridge Drive to 3650, the road I was just talking about. So past Staley Farms in that area there. Southern Parkway, as you all know, is now completely open. I haven't driven it yet, but
Just a one-laner.
yeah, so that's now open and their construction is now completed besides beyond just their regular. And then I just mentioned the Transportation Expo that'll be coming up on February 9th at the Dixie Center, right? That's always a great event. And if you can pencil that in, that's a good one to go in and see kind of all the road plans and the MPO, the work that the councilman does with the MPO, and Mike and our crew does, and it's a great expo.
It's something that we want to really push into our citizenry too. Probably if we could get out in the newsletter, it certainly help because more attendance there.
February 9th.
Anyway, it's a great opportunity to get educated on the process of where we're at, what's planned out there. And they use a lot of the intake from that expo to bring into the MPO. So a lot of what they receive there from input comes on.
And other than that, Mayor, I'll answer any questions, but those are really the highlight projects that are going on.
Okay. Any questions for the manager? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So made.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn.
Turner guy.
Nice night.
Ellis and I.
Granger, aye.
Thank you all.